that is Galliwasp. The thing we call like a black submarine. I will call it one like a black thing we run when water secular.
Could you well, you're unmuted already. Can you turn on your camera? Wonderful. So,
Testing mic check 1 2. Can I get that? Mic check 1 2 1 2. Wait in FX. Testing mic check Oh, sorry. Testing mic check one. Sorry. Test mic check 1 2. Prof Simon, can you hear me? Prof Simon, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Can you hear me now? All right. Oh, yeah. This is fine. Again, go again, Prof Simon.
Yes, I can hear you.
Just continue
Check
talking,
one.
Prof Simon.
Sorry, I didn't. What did you say?
Yeah, hear me now? Testing mic check 1 2. Check 1 2. Testing mic check. Mic check 1. Oh, yeah.
We are connecting up the various streams. So the stream to Facebook and the stream to PBCJ. So we're just get a slight delay. You're expecting me to say something? You need to sign. That's why you're signing to sign. These are all serious. Yes. So we decided to I was trying to she's panicked because so hopefully that should be something. So you should choose to be on purpose. I think we'll have to I tried yesterday to get on. I did get on and I received but I needed my approval. When I checked it out, it says the same as it was this issue.
Testing mic check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Good morning, colleagues. It is my honor. It's been a year in waiting for us to sign this MOU. So I am actually very honored to welcome all of you here today, colleagues from the Institute of Jamaica, including the Executive Director, Mrs. Creed Nelson, the Director of Natural History Museum. Yes, right. I forget. My apologies. Professor Young, Chairman of the Board of Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Mrs. Creed Nelson, Executive Director of the Institute of Jamaica, Mrs. Tracy Comock, Director of the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Elizabeth Morrison, the Zoology Curator, Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Deborah K. Palmer, who is the Director of World Heritage from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, our other panelists, including Mr. Damian White. Where did Damian go? Oh, Damian White, who is a terrestrial biologist. Colleagues from regional headquarters, University Registrar, from the Department of Life Sciences, colleagues who are joining us on the UWI Museum Facebook page, as well as a stream from PBC Jamaica. Thank you very much for joining us today in what is a very important occasion in fine-tuning our repatriation practices in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. So we have a very quick program, right? First order of business will be the signing of the MOU after we have greetings from Dr. Maurice Smith, who is University Registrar, Regional Headquarters, UWI, and then greetings from Mrs. Creed Nelson, Executive Director, and then we'll have a brief overview by Professor Simon Anderson, who's joining us via Zoom in Barbados, and he's co-director of the Glasgow Caribbean Center for Development Research. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Roper, University Archivist, other ladies and gentlemen here. Mrs. Creed Nelson, what a lovely name. Been looking at it all morning. Mrs. Creed Nelson, Executive Director of the Institute of Jamaica. Mrs. Nicole Patrick Shaw, Professor Ronald Young, members of the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, including Mrs. Tracy Comock, Director, and other colleagues from the Institute of Jamaica. It is certainly my pleasure to welcome you here today. I'm Professor Anderson, co-director of the Glasgow Caribbean Center for Development Research, Dr. Hall representing Professor Mona Weber, head of department, and other colleagues from the UWI community. Our stakeholders on Zoom, members of the regional headquarters who are here, and like the poor, you're always with us. Members of UWI Museum who are on Facebook Live, and to certainly our stakeholders who are joining us via PBC Jamaica on YouTube. Thank you so very much for sharing with us today. Today is a momentous occasion. This is where we cement our arrangement with the National Natural History Museum of Jamaica as it relates to the care of the first natural history repatriated specimen. Now, interestingly, when one thinks of returning of cultural items, a lizard is not what comes to mind, and I've made deliberate efforts to keep my distance. I've made deliberate efforts to keep my distance. But interestingly, the UWI, University of Glasgow MOU builds on existing partnerships with our colleagues at the Institute of Jamaica. And it places this one-of-a-kind specimen in a national fauna collection. And this MOU cements the role of museums in the region, and it supports institutions that build and promote cultural identity in all of its forms. And one of the values that we celebrate here at the university is diversity. And I think our being here today exemplifies in a real and tangible and novel way what we mean by being inclusive. So thank you so very much. We look forward to a vibrant, continuing partnership between ourselves and the Institute. So thank you so very much, and good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay, Dr. Maurice Smith, University Registrar, UWI, Dr. Shani Roper, Curator, University of the West Indies, Professor Simon Anderson, Co-Director, Glasgow Caribbean Center for Development Research, Professor Emeritus Ronald Young, Board Chairman, Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Dr. Denise Hall, Lecturer and Researcher, UWI Mona, panelists, Mr. Damian White, Ms. Deborah K. Palmer, Ms. Elizabeth Morrison, representatives from the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Institute of Jamaica, colleagues and others joining us via online and via PBCJ. Morning and welcome. The Institute of Jamaica holds as its mandate the encouragement of literature, science, and the arts. Our presence here today to formalize this agreement between the University of the West Indies, Mona, and the Institute of Jamaica for the display and study of the Jamaican giant Galliwasp specimen is testament to the fact that these are not just mere buzzwords. They reflect a steadfast commitment to the preservation, conservation, and promotion of our tangible and intangible heritage. The Institute of Jamaica and the University of the West Indies share a long and storied history of collaboration on matters of profound historical and scientific significance. Our researchers and scientists have long worked side by side, united by a common goal to uncover and illuminate the truths of our island's evolution, enriching our collective understanding of Jamaica's past. Having Celeste as a specimen has been fondly named in our national collection represents another meaningful step in fulfilling our duty to safeguard the richness of our past, held in trust for the future. On this momentous occasion, we find ourselves one step closer to equipping current and future generations with the tools to better understand Jamaica's historical fauna, supporting not only scientific research, but also the natural human curiosity that inspires learning and wonder. Celeste is not only a representation of our material history, but also a vital symbol of cultural identity. Myths and traditions abound regarding the Galliwasp. Among them, the belief that if one bites you and reaches water before you do, death is certain. I believe that with all my heart when I was growing up. The presence of this specimen offers a tangible link to our oral traditions and to the stories that make our heritage so rich, complex, and vibrant. It is therefore my duty and my pleasure to express sincere gratitude to the scientists, researchers, diplomats, and all those whose efforts have made the repatriation of Celeste to Jamaica possible. May we continue to pursue opportunities to share, recover, and reclaim the historical artifacts of our island, whether through digitization or physical return, ensuring they are preserved for generations to come. It is our responsibility to nurture the curiosity of our children and to ignite in them a passion for our island and its rich heritage. Once again, I thank you, University of Glasgow, University of the West Indies, the Natural History Museum, for their collaboration in this meaningful project. May we have a good day, and may we really long live the Galliwasp. I know it's dead, but may we find another specimen, this time a live specimen, because it is believed to be extinct. But I don't know how many persons are looking for it, you know what I mean? All right, okay, all right, morning everyone. Okay, so we're going to turn over to Professor Anderson.
I hope I can be heard.
Yes.
Dr. Maurice Smith, University Registrar, Dr. Shani Roper, Museum Curator at the UWI, Professor Ronald Young, Chairman Board of the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Mrs. Michelle Creed Nelson, Executive Director, Institute of Jamaica, Ms. Tracy Hummock, Director, NHMJ, Ms. Elizabeth M. Morrison, Zoologist, Ms. Anika Brannan, Public Relations Office Manager, Ms. Anelka Wisdom, Acting PR Manager, Mr. Richard Belter, Mr. Leonard Wright, and distinguished guests across all platforms and in the room unknown. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share remarks, and I'm also acknowledging my co-director, Professor William Cushley, who sends apologies. So on April 18, 2024, the global news wires were awash with the news of the repatriation of a Jamaican giant Galliwasp specimen from the Hunterian collection at the University of Glasgow in Scotland. And there were more images online with me holding the Galliwasp than with me doing anything else, which was quite interesting. But 5 UWI and IOJ representatives, including Dr. Roper, Dr. Hall, Dr. Newell, Ms. Morrison, and Delancey, had traveled to Scotland for this creative but important institution-to-institution exchange. The Glasgow Caribbean Centre for Development Research, which is an institute, a centre in both the UWI and the University of Glasgow, funded the trip, and at the same time the Office of Global Affairs at the UWI supported Desiree Delancey, a graduate student in the Department of Life Sciences. So why was this repatriation necessary, and how did it come about? We have to go back to the 17th century and Sir Hans Sloane, a physician and naturalist who spent 15 months in Jamaica as physician to the governor of Jamaica at that time. And his work included a sketch of the Jamaican giant Galliwasp, which is an endemic species, meaning that it's only ever been found in Jamaica. And a specimen was later acquired in the 1850s and placed in the Andersonian collection in Scotland, no relation. And the University of Glasgow then acquired the collection in the 1880s. So what's changed since then? Well, in 2022, Curator of Zoology at the University of Glasgow, Dr. Rutherford, contacted Dr. Roper and another colleague about possible repatriation of the presumed extinct Jamaican Galliwasp under the MOU which exists between the UWI and Glasgow. And we know that the Jamaican National Flora and Fauna Collection at the Natural History Museum has no specimens except for the sketch that is attributed to Hans Sloane. So it was a really good move by Dr. Rutherford, who was formerly zoology curator in the UWI at St. Augustine for 9 years. And he had a good understanding of the state of zoological collections in the Institute. And through committee came this initial discussion between Shani and Mike that repatriation was necessary, but there are other benefits that need to be considered, including the how, why, and future of repatriation of other items. So this is really important. It shows the complex history between the movement of cultural material, a lot of it which came from the Caribbean and sits in beautiful museums in different parts of the world. But it also provides an opportunity for multiple routes to the return of cultural items to the region and to the repatriation that should take place to ensure that we have a rich history to look forward to in the future. Thank you.
Okay, so this is actually the most important moment. So I'll invite Dr. Smith, Mrs. Creed Nelson, and Tracy come up to the podium where we will begin the process of signing. I'm going to ask our representative from the legal unit, Carla Henry, to just guide us through the process. Dr. Smith. just one pen? I didn't take a pen, no, I provide pens. Oh, excuse me. So, they'll move it down. Oh, she has enough.
Yes, you can proceed, Miss Greenhouse.
Sean needs so many copies.
It's 4, so I think it's 2.
Okay. Today's date?
The 27th?
Yes, 27, yeah.
You can put that one.
So when she said it can come down. Okay. Mrs. Greenhouse, I thought she know it must come down. Just nice and down to me.
I'll come in down to you. So teenage. This all of the
These are signed already.
So you just pass it on to the doctor.
Tell him to send down the other pen.
Proceed signing this.
Thank you.
And today's date. Oh, that's one we didn't sign. Okay, I'll go after this one.
Okay.
Put that one on.
Mrs. Greenhouse, she didn't do it this one. I have one more, right?
Then
Give me
it's
one
supposed to
more.
be 4 each. 4 of them
I
are.
signed
This is
that.
for the executed. Thank you. She can sign it again for the ceremony. After the ceremony, they can come with that. Thank you. It's already signed. It's already signed.
Which one? Oh, this is already signed. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll ask him to sign after. Start the title. You know? Okay.
Alright, good.
I'll keep that one and then you sign after, just for the tidiness.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. You can keep it.
Done. Okay. You want us to get up?
Yeah, we'll just take one picture.
Okay.
And as you ask the meetings.
Where you want us to go?
Just done.
Just right here?
Oh yeah. Lisa, Carlo.
Oh, we did it. We did it.
We're just one of the folders. folder. One of the agreements. And one of the agreements.
So I don't open them also.
For them to know what it's about.
Huh? Going closer. You need the chairs out?
Just this one especially.
Alright. Oh, no, legal. Legal. Yeah. All right, so I now invite Dr. Tanis Hall, representing Professor Mona Weber of the Department of Life Sciences, to bring brief remarks. Yeah. All right.
Good morning, everyone. All protocol observed. The Department of Life Sciences, major player in research on Jamaica's biodiversity, and currently headed by Professor Mona Weber, is pleased to collaborate in this process. We value both the specimen and the repatriation process. The repatriation process was significant for us as a visit to the museums in Scotland provided the opportunity to meet colleagues. So we held discussions, and we also got to observe specimens from Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. There are other specimens out there which we do not necessarily have here. The single repatriated Jamaican giant Galliwasp specimen is significant for the evidence it provides us of a species which is endemic and most likely extinct. One physical specimen, well documented, is infinitely more valuable than illustrations or records, especially for organisms no longer extant. So the repatriation of this specimen made it more accessible to us. We can observe this rare example of our unique historical endemic fauna as often as needed and for as long as needed without incurring large financial expenditures. The fact that Celeste will be housed in the Natural History Museum of Jamaica demonstrates the continued goodwill and collaboration between the Department of Life Sciences, University of the West Indies, and the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Institute of Jamaica. As the curators of our biodiversity collection, they are best equipped to care for the specimen, and we recognize that there, the specimen will be more accessible to all, whether researchers or members of the general public. Jamaicans can marvel at the flagship specimen, get curious, learn about them, and hopefully this will translate into better attitudes to lizards in general and likely lead to their increased survival. Right? But for the Jamaican scientists, for our current and our future herpetologists, the specimen does more than confirm our biodiversity and distribution, but it provides an opportunity for local taxonomic, systematic, and genetic studies of the group of Galliwasp, and for deductions to be made on their biology, life history, ecology, and hopefully all of this will lead to their conservation. The specimen in this genus, with a lot of Jamaican endemics, so based on that, major contributions can be made of their study, especially of studies with their relationships with lizards elsewhere. This specimen, this single specimen, can also serve as an important reference in case similar Galliwasp are discovered, and we all hope that that will be the case. So we are happy to be collaborating in this process, and we thank all collaborators. We thank Dr. Shani Rope but we thank Mike Rutherford, we thank the Ontarian Museum, the University of Glasgow, and the Natural History Museum of Jamaica. And we anticipate continued collaboration. Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, we will transition to our panel discussion. However, what we'll show is a vox pop that was done by the Natural History Museum of Jamaica back in 2023, when we had a collaborative educational program, panel discussion on repatriation and natural history collections with the University of Glasgow, in which we also discovered other big collections from Jamaican collectors that our colleagues as practitioners were not aware of. And it really it tells us why we need to have these conversations. So we want to share the vox pop while our panelists make their way to the table. All right.
I guess so. A little thing about some mushroom like this, right? Yeah. Is that kind of Galliwasp? Then second bite? Okay. Yeah, man.
It's a form of police. With a long tail. It looked like a lizard. A Galliwasp is exactly a lizard. Remember the Galliwasp that we found down there the other day? It was a lizard. Shine lizard. It's shine. No, it's not a lizard.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Well,
isn't that like this lizard or like it's from the reptile family, and I think it's up in the Blue Mountains, and persons say if it bites you and if it gets to the water before you, something's gonna happen. I'm not sure. Yeah, I know what that is.
Galliwasp. The thing we call like a black stuff my run. I will call it one like a black thing we run when water settle and then yeah, it's Galliwasp. It used to call it I don't remember. Yeah, because what you see one running up at my house. I think so, no, I think a Galliwasp they call it.
Galliwasp is like a beast. I think. Wrong? Oh, that's so.
No?
Would you like to see a picture?
Sure.
Oh. Yes, I didn't know that.
What's your note to
I probably just.
You ever seen something like this?
Not actually, yeah, but probably on pictures or videos, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I never seen it. No,
Galliwasp. Heard the name before, but I'm not sure. Yes. No, really. Never know that. Like seriously. I've heard the name Galliwasp before, but I've never seen something like that. That's in Jamaica. I've never seen something like that. Learned something new today.
No, I don't know what a Galliwasp is. I've heard the name. I'm thinking it's a kind of wasp or something. Don't know.
Galliwasp. Galliwasp, Galliwasp, you know, something like a stinging or something like that. Yeah, it keep bite near. Coming up. It's like insect, like one look like a part like or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, what's it? Galliwasp. Galliwasp? No. That's a Galliwasp. Oh. No.
All right, colleagues. All right, so let us get to our meaty part of our presentation now that we've done the official signing, which my colleagues at Natural History will agree with me that it's been long awaited, lots of edits. So I'm very happy that we've gotten there. Okay, so I'll begin by introducing my colleagues today. So our first presenter is Ms. Deborah K. Palmer, who's to my right. She's the Director of World Heritage and Cultural Conventions at the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport. She has over 20 years' experience in cultural resource management, and she plays a key role in the implementation of Jamaica's obligations under UNESCO's Cultural Convention, in particular World Heritage and Intangible Heritage, and has been instrumental in Jamaica's inscriptions under both. Can I announce it for later as well? Yes. Including most recently Port Royal. Yes. Not inscribed yet, but it's on its route. It's right, it's there. So it's important. These things take a lot of work, so it's very important. She was influential in the inscription of Jamaica's only World Heritage mixed site, which is the Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park and World Heritage Site, and is the ministry lead for development focused on the nomination dossier of Port Royal, which has been completed. Yes. And she's a focal point of many amendments to cultural legislation and Jamaica's ratification of conventions on illicit trafficking of cultural property, return, and restitution. She has a master's in cultural projects for development from the University of Turin, International Labour Organization, and an MSc in Principles of Conservation from University College of London, and a BSc in Biochemistry from the University of the West Indies. Our second presenter is Miss Elizabeth Morrison. Wrong paper. Wrong paper again. Sorry, where is it? Right here. So, yes. Elizabeth Morrison is zoologist at the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, where she has curated the National Zoological Collections for over 25 years. Her research focuses on Jamaican fauna, and she regularly contributes technical expertise to exhibitions, education, and public outreach in the island's natural history. She's a UNESCO-trained facilitator in intangible cultural heritage and has developed a film series and database linking Jamaican folklore with biodiversity. She received training in comprehensive museology from the Japan International Cooperation Agency in Osaka, Japan. And in 2024, she was one of the 5-member Jamaican delegation. Wrong event. Yes, okay. She was one of the 5 that went to collect it. But she was also part of the Repatriation and Museum Futures Conference at the University of Glasgow, where she presented on the return of the Galliwasp to Jamaica from the Hunterian. She also holds a MSc in Natural Resource Management and represents the Natural History Museum on both the Endangered Animals Recovery Working Group and the Jamaica Iguana Recovery Group. And she's a member of the Natural History Society of Jamaica and JICA Alumni Association. And last is Mr. Damian White, who holds a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Biology and a Master of Philosophy in Zoology. And he's currently pursuing his PhD in Zoology at UWI Mona. And he has over 26 years of experience in environmental advocacy. And he actively engages, everybody knows Rooster's World, I hope. Yes, he actively engages as a biologist focusing on various vertebrates. He is passionate. And he's a passionate environmental advocate on social media, including Roosters World JA on X, Twitter, or now called X, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And he has traveled throughout Jamaica to assist communities. He's also rescued animals on my behalf as well with environmental issues, animal rescues. Participates in numerous outreach programs, collaborates with schools, church groups, and ecological clubs to promote awareness and education. And he's published extensively in peer-reviewed journals and 85 scientific reports. And he's adjunct lecturer in the Department of Life Sciences. All right, so each of our presenters will begin. They'll have 10 minutes to each speak on a specific component that I asked them to cover. And then we'll open the floor to questions and respond and kind of move towards a conversation about the work that is being done.
Okay, so I'm using this mic. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. It really is it's a wonderful opportunity for us to sound better. That better? So my voice not so loud. So, is that better? Yes? Good. Okay, so it's a really wonderful opportunity for us to be here. It really is a historic, momentous occasion because when Shani told me about the return of the big lizard, I thought we've been struggling in Jamaica to have cultural property objects return, made objects from our varying, historical periods. Not once did we think of a lizard. We never think about that at all. So it really is something that we didn't foresee, but it is certainly something that we have really engaged from the ministries. And so my role here today is just to talk a little bit about the conventions, where we are, what we're doing, and how this whole return has impacted what we're doing. So what am I pressing? Oops. Okay. So what is reparation? And I'm in a crowd that generally knows that. So it's the process for the return of cultural property to the state of origin. Cultural property in this context is not just what we consider, from historical periods, but also our natural heritage. And it's something even within the sector, we've had to, say, remember, we have some natural heritage going on over here. It's not just what we consider to be cultural heritage remains. So it can be done. The removal is something we've experienced through theft, looting, colonial appropriation. As we know, it affects movable and immovable objects and resources. And it is, as I've said, natural and cultural. Okay, I'm pressing. I did not do that.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so we've had some experiences with the removal of cultural property from sites in Jamaica. And this is just, these are some pictures showing us objects that were removed from the underwater city in Port Royal. And so what we're looking at they were held on to by customs, and this was done in the early 2000s. But we have objects that have been removed from Canoe Valley, from White Marl, in St. Catherine, and as I said, Port Royal. But there is a range of sites in our island that have been disturbed by persons intent on selling or just removing objects from them. I'm going to give you just a couple other. So this is Port Royal, and as Shani shared, we have no the recommendation from the International Council on Monuments and Sites, advisory body to the World Heritage Committee, which indicates Jamaica's inscription for this site. And, if you go back to Port Royal, just a bit to Port Royal is one of those sites that it doesn't take much to find objects not only on the land, but underwater, surface objects that are quite valuable. So it's quite easy to locate. This is White Marl, and my colleague here, Michelle, is right above showing a burial there. But Canoe Valley, where petroglyphs were sawed off the site, the walls of this cave are examples of what was immovable becoming movable. So our journey has had for us in the ministry, looking at how it is we obtain, and most of our objects are in Britain, but they're not only in Britain, they're in the US, they're in Germany, they're far-flung places, right? So in a context of requesting, though, from Britain, because we have requested from Britain our objects, and we're not alone. So we know of the Benin bronzes, we know of the Parthenon marbles. So Jamaica's ones over here, no less important, we want ours back too. Because the context of the British Museum is that it's a global, they've positioned as a global museum for all humanity. But what is considered interesting for viewers is our heritage. It's important to us, right? It's what makes us who we are, right? So we've requested and they've said no. And so our next step, one of our next steps have included our movement towards the ratification of the conventions that address these issues. And they're long names, so forgive me. So the 1970 Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property, and the 1995 International Institute for the Unification of Private Law UNIDROIT Convention on Stolen or Illegally Exported Cultural Objects. These two conventions are meant to work together. And in the Caribbean, there are 7 countries that have ratified the 1970 Convention, and none have ratified the 1995 Convention. Jamaica is aiming to ratify them both, to sign on to them both, in God willing, this year. This is our intent. So just a little bit on the conventions, won't go into too much detail. The 1970 Convention is built on 3 main pillars: preventative measures, meaning that a state party must engage in measures that prevents the looting, the illicit movement of cultural property. They must engage in restitution. So if something is found in another state party, something is found in Jamaica, we need to engage other state parties within the context of this convention, and it can only happen between state parties. Can't happen individual to with an individual, a private owner, for example. And international cooperation. It is meant to happen within a network of state parties. The UNIDROIT Convention speaks to return and restitution within the context where the 1970 had gaps. It didn't address issues of due diligence. What happens if somebody buys an object, but they didn't do their background checks? They didn't check to see it was stolen. They got it for $1, but it's 1 million. These kind of things, due diligence. So it can, and the 1995 Convention engages individuals, so private persons who own objects can engage states on their objects. So what does all this have to do with the lizard? So this being the very first thing ever returned to Jamaica makes it a huge, huge matter for us. We never thought of how this could happen. We thought that it had to come from state, the UK have to give it back what is ours. No, it didn't happen that way. What it opened our eyes to was an alternate route. It doesn't have to come back to us. It may not ever come back to us from the UK, but it could be loaned. These are some of the contexts. Now, I know when people hear you're borrowing what is yours, it feels, but can you imagine if we had collections that have not been on the shores of Jamaica for 200 years coming back to us for us to engage within the context of our own history? We're fighting the battle to have UK return, or they say it's not the UK, it's the British Museum, to have the British Museum return something that they've said unequivocally they will not. So we need to consider other routes, and this was a really good route, the institution to institution process, where it might not come back to Jamaica as a state, but it can be returned to a university or another educational institution. And this really has proven to us that it can work, and it can work well. The option that we actually need to really not only focus on that, on the cultural items, the tiny objects, is the things that were, built and done in Jamaica, but the natural specimen, as we know, hand Sloan collection it's all natural, and not all, but mostly natural, and it was a foundation collection for the British Museum. What would that look like to return to Jamaica? It might not be how we want it to, but having it here might outweigh the way it comes, if you know what I mean, if you get what I'm saying. So just wanted to give you a little, jump back into the cultural property part of things. The British Museum acts, according to the British Museum, their act prevents them from returning objects to former colonies. And this is an example of one of the Benin bronzes that have been returned, but alternate routes have been done through the universities of Aberdeen and Cambridge to countries, to Nigeria. So it can happen, and it has happened. There are over 800 pieces from the Benin bronzes in the museum right now, and there's no way to get them back into Nigeria unless they find another route. So here's our collection, the Carpenter's Mountain Collection, and this is what we had written the British Museum for in 2020. So this collection has been requested since 1939, 1988, and here 2020. And we were told, nobody want them. We're not going to give you. I hope that was translated well on the, but that's really what, it's not going to come the way you want it, but what they offered, and it's not something we have to accept, but what they offered was a long-term loan. Could it be that Jamaica could have a collection like this that was removed in 1792? I hope I got that right. That was removed, come back to our island. So these are some of the things we can be looking at. Texas A&M would have done work in Port Royal, and they too want to return their objects that they would have used. They didn't, we're not saying they stole them, by knowing they didn't, but these objects have been in their hands for decades. They want to return them. So there's a route that we need to consider that has been proven well here. And I am done. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Good morning. Into my presentation is Repatriation and Natural History Collections. So I'm not sure if it's being streamed. Said 1 minute, 1 sec. Okay. All right, so today I'm going to talk a bit about natural history collections in particular, and the meaning, what it has meant to us to have a specimen return to our collections. Firstly, I'd like to talk, just to remind us a bit about why natural history museums matter, because we talk a lot about other forms of cultural heritage. And sometimes, people, they're like, natural history museums, is it culture, is it science? And they know where to really, place it. But what natural history museums do is that they collect, preserve, and study and interpret specimens of the natural world. And, this is something that we can all relate to. It's all a shared cultural heritage that we have. As Jamaicans, we all interact with our environment, and sometimes in our own cultural way. And unfortunately, one of the cultural ways is that most of us all fear lizards. But natural history museums, we act as scientific repositories. We document biodiversity and evolutionary history. We are education hubs, raising environmental awareness and public knowledge. We act as conservation resources, supporting species protection and policy action. And we're spaces of culture and ecological memory. So we are the space where people come to talk and connect with the land, with the species, and the stories about them. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm the one who's to do it.
Yeah, press down.
Down.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, all right, so a little historical context. The Institute of Jamaica, which is our parent institution, was established in 1879 under British colonial rule. And it was redefined. So we got a new life in 1978. The IOJ was legally redefined to operate for the people of Jamaica as a national institution supporting cultural expression, scientific advancement, and education. So where it was before, in 1879, when a lot of our biodiversity was collected and sent abroad for study, it was a time when our country had no sovereignty. We were British subjects, and when we're saying that, even some of the things that went abroad, possibly it went abroad with the assistance of curators from the Natural History Museum at the time. So, but now, under this act, it's one of the first steps that Jamaica has taken to respond to this legacy and to build our own internal capacity as Jamaicans to document, preserve, and interpret our own natural history ourselves. Colonial extraction, so some of the challenges, right? So it's not like in some other countries where there was looting. There was a lot of extraction, a lot of things went, and we want them back. No, because it would be beneficial for us right now to have our own biodiversity, as Shani and Deborah Kay have already said, right? The challenges with that is that there are a lot of complex issues regarding stewardship. Are we able to manage our specimens? We hear that. Institutional accountability, and historical imbalances about access to knowledge and ownership of the specimens. So these are a lot of complex issues that a lot of discussion takes place around these things. However, our department, the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, is supported by a zoology, botany, science library, education unit, and a clearinghouse mechanism that works together to preserve our biological record and to support national research and increase public awareness of our biodiversity. So we're not starting from scratch. We have these institutions here. So repatriations of natural history specimens, not very common. Here I found 5 examples, right? Return of geological specimens to New Zealand, all right? So from Europe, the Rapa Nui volcanic moai fragments, and there's also ongoing return of human Maori remains from Europe to New Zealand in 2003. We have between 2012 and 2020, the USA returned to Mongolia illegally exported dinosaur fossils, including Tyrannosaurus bataar. And from 1990s to present, so ongoing talks and repatriations of marine mammal remains to indigenous communities in Alaska, from Europe to Alaska. And now, in 2024, Scotland to Jamaica, return of the Jamaican giant Galliwasp. So we are there amongst few of this sort of repatriation. So the 2024 repatriation of our Galliwasp species is symbolic, and it's a scientific milestone. So after 170 years abroad, the specimen has returned to Jamaica, where it's going to be housed in the Natural History Museum, and where it will be easily accessible to students, researchers, and the public. Right. So, in case some of you are in here and not really knowing when I'm talking about the Jamaican giant Galliwasp, what it is, all right? It was, and the Vox Pop showed that a lot of Jamaicans really don't know what is the Galliwasp. They've never run across it. This giant Galliwasp, they call it also the sinking Galliwasp, is was a large elusive lizard that was native to southwest Jamaica, and it's believed to have been extinct since the 19th century. It inhabited burrows in wetlands and was very secretive and nocturnal, and rarely seen even at that time. So its diet likely included insects, small fishes, fish, and invertebrates. And it was feared, as are all Galliwasps, the smaller ones included. And it was, probably persecuted by humans at the time who did run across them. Even Celeste, when you have the chance to look at her, you'll see that she has it looked as if when she was caught, there's a spear that they speared it through the head to get, so it seemed to have been done with malice aforethought. They caught it with a spear, and, they didn't think, even in collection, it's been feared. And Mrs. Creed Nelson has said, boy, she believes to her core that she have to run to water if she's been bitten.
That's when you grew up in Jamaica,
Yes. That was a fact. All right, so the extinction of it likely linked to the introduction of the mongoose, which is, that predator that has been linked to the extinction of 5 or so of our other species. And now it's classified as critically endangered because there is a faint hope that we have survival of it because of its remote habitat. So this is what we talk about when we're talking about the Galliwasp. All right? So given that many Jamaicans don't like lizards, they feel no guilt in killing them on sight, did anybody care when the lizard specimen was repatriated to Jamaica? It's been 1 year now. So what has happened since the lizard has come back? Celeste has come to Jamaica. This is the night when we came in. I went straight with it to the institute, right? And put it in the collection. So Celeste, within the 1 year, has been increasingly fulfilling a role of a national symbol of heritage, conservation, and scientific collaboration. It's fostered research and learning opportunities viewed by researchers from UE, UDC, NEPA. These are some of the entomology students from the Department of Life Sciences who were fascinated when they came to see it. Regional conservation and biodiversity professionals. So because of the widespread media coverage, many persons have, when they visit our collections, the one thing they want to see is the Galliwasp more than anything. It's inspired a proposed interdisciplinary project between the University of the West Indies, NHMJ, and Edna Manley College, where we will be producing watercolors and ceramic media of this specimen, so we can have more documents. So we don't only have that one black and white sketch from Sloan time. We'll have some more things, high quality images. Right? We have strengthened conservation impact across the region. Just in March this year, we nominated, through the Endangered Species Working Group, we nominated the species to be included in the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund hotspot priority species list. So if this is approved, it will strengthen the species conservation profile within wider Caribbean biodiversity action strategies. So this will lead to more opportunities for funding research for, in case there'll be somebody who wants to go out in the field and look for relatives of Celeste or possible remnant populations. All right. Media outreach and public awareness has been incredible. We've been featured across major local and international media. This was us, our first front page, right? Front page coverage from the Scotsman in Scotland, but we were covered all across the world. We've had on social media, I haven't checked it recently, but over 1.5 million views. And that was from last year. I think we still are, growing in viewerships. And we've been covered in in-house media, both UE and NHMJ, and TV coverage and radio coverage. So it stimulated interest from our leadership and our political leadership. It's been viewed by the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Chief of Defense, the Commissioner of Police, and cited in the sectoral presentation and temporarily displayed at Parliament during the Minister's speech. All right, and so just some next steps that we might want to discuss later on, with regards to repatriation. We need to pursue additional Jamaican specimens that might be out there in foreign institutions. And if we can't get those back, digital repatriation, increase public awareness and education so that we can reduce the fear surrounding the species and lizards in general, strengthen the zoological collections, and inspire the next generation of scientists. So I'm going to stop here because I've been pinched. All right, so that's it for you.
Okay, greetings. I guess I reached the last part now. Waiting on my part to put up until that's up. I see some familiar faces, some mentors. I see Prof. Young there. And I look back, I see Prof. Wilson, who is one of the persons that have brought me out in the field, and I've heard a lot, so very happy to see him there. Mr. Iguana Man. All right, so the next part is what next? Okay. Wait. Okay, so we be talking about Galliwasp. I'm doing the part of what is the Galliwasp. We're talking about, oh, wait, go back up. All right, one clip. Okay. All right, so in our world, we do a lot of classification. So when we look at the group, the Galliwasp in Jamaica, we look at Celestus, the genus Celestus. So in 2021, there was 11 species from this group, 10 endemic, mean only found in Jamaica, and then we had the Asian Celestus warnii. However, in 2022, it was reclassified and in a group, Caribacus warnii, and guess what does that mean for Jamaica? All members right now are found in Jamaica. So it has changed. So that is something special. So, names. Galliwasp, which some authority have it that early it came from Gully apps. So apps is a British snake. And what happened, this lizard, what we have up there, Celestus oscideus, normally used to hang around gullies and go in the water body. So some people said Gully apps became Galliwasp based on our patois. But different authority have it. So some people have it snake boy, wood slave, snake lizard, ground lizard, snake, thinking Galliwasp. We get a lot of these names from what we put out on social media, and different areas have different common names. So, just some introduction. They have forked tongue, looking snake-like. They operate between dawn and dusk. They don't produce venom because they're a lizard. They warm up in the morning because all lizards are cold-blooded. And they give majority of the information that we have from this group, they give live birth. However, there is limited information on Galliwasp in general. They are very secretive, and there are few people that studies them. And they eat insects and small frogs, and they have it that they might eat some rats. Now, when we look at what in Jamaica, on that list of the 10, we have 3 that are critical endangered, including what we brought back, Celestus oscideus. All of them right up there has it as critical endangered. Some authority has it as extinct. Then we have the other set that are said not assessed, meaning we have no information. So they might be threatened, and we don't know. We have vulnerable. And then one and least concern is Celestus crusculus, where majority of us feel that there are many species within that group. So a lot of work is needed. Now, just give you that Celestus barbari, love the leaf litter. When we say snout to vent length, it would be from the snout of the lizard to the anus, not the full tail. So that's why we have snout to vent length up there. We have Celestus crusculus. This is the one that normally shows up in most people's yard when the time is dry, especially now they're showing up at people's home. They're following food or they're looking somewhere cool to hang out. There's that lovely Celestus discoine, blue-tailed forest Galliwasp, one of the most beautiful one, I believe, Hellshire Hills. And we have Prof. Wilson here, who in his work got that picture there. Right, look at that beautiful tail. Oh, wow, wait. And then we have some Galliwasps that live in bromeliad. That's the Celestus foliae, are under the bark, cockpit country. We have the small eye Galliwasp. A lot of the people who dig up yam, these guys burrow, talk about a Galliwasp that they encounter. And we have some other big Galliwasps that some people might call giant, Celestus striatus. So initially, all the big Galliwasps were once called Celestus oscideus, but work now from the different collections which are in Europe and in America. Yes, majority of our collection are there that we don't have. So reclassification I've done, and we have 3 big size Galliwasps that might call giant. So we always stick to Celestus Oscidius, which is the bigger of the two. And the interesting thing, this one here, about the size of my arm. Yeah, well, that one not the size. So we move on now to what next. So with all of this, we have our panelists talk, so what next? So one of the things is research. There are several species that are not described. And one of the reasons, the problem with this, we don't have much resident herpetologists. One, these animals are very secretive. So you'll go in an area and you search, and you're not finding them. So we need more research, and research means funding. As I mentioned, there's variation within the group genus Celestus, and I bet with genetic work, we're going to find more species than 10. The IUC and red listing needs to be upgraded because there's problems going on. We need more local researchers. We need to inspire more young. And the threats, we have habitat loss, all of that going on. Now, why we put it at Celestus Oscidius? For me, seeing that specimen, looking at a picture, they said looking at a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now imagine looking at a specimen, I would say go up to 1,000,000. A pitch, when I go and look at it, I see variation. It gives our scientists ideas. When I'm looking at the feet, now looking at the tail, it gives us ideas where we could go and find it. Now the Jamaica iguana was perceived to be extinct, and the work, we found it, and the work that people like Dr. Vogel, Prof. Wilson, and all the other team members have played in the protecting. Now we have a Head Start program, and the Jamaica iguana is there, and it could be for a Galliwasp. Now, just let people know, long time we have it, that's some of the areas, wetland, and we have few people have done expedition. And two of them in here, we have Peter Vogel did, Sloan Jackson, a naturalist. I have Prof. Wilson and his team have searched areas in St. Elizabeth. I have searched a number of areas looking for it. There's still a debate whether it's wetland, it could be in Hellshire, we don't know. And just remember that we have 2 million people out there, so if we inspire people to help us in the search, we scientists go in an area once a year, people live there, so they could tell us what it is. So these are some of the areas, and I remember talking to some community members that tell us about this pond gator, different from a alligator. Jamaicans call crocodile alligator, but there's a special pond gator that they talk about, which basically the community tell us sometimes it's an eel with leg, an eel does not have leg, or it's a shiny animal that run off in the water. So that already tell us that we need to go and search. No, public awareness, social media. This is what we're getting. Come in the house, chop up. This was in Stony Hill. And yes, I'm getting bite, you're getting drop down. We have to put our information to let people understand. So this Galliwasp up there, I think this is Celestus UWI. We don't have much information, but we get information from what people are chopping up. So even though this was bad, we get information on the rate so our team can go out, and we have to do something with the public perception of these animals. We have look-alike. That's a Jamaican skink. Who know about that? That's in the Hellshire, it's endemic. And to the normal person, that's a Galliwasp. But that's one of our Galliwasp is not a skink, totally. No, we found an invasive here. That's a tegula lizard. And the interesting thing about this lizard, you just need one individual for reproduction. Yes, that's the thing with the tegula lizard. I thought some of this went with microorganisms, but these guys are special. One. And it's here now, and spreading. We don't know what's the impact it have, meaning that it might be all competing some of the food. Yes, Prof. Wilson, you're looking around here, we have it. We found records now in St. Catherine, Clarendon, and St. Thomas. As a matter of fact, I made the mistake first and thought it was Celestus crusculus, because it was this Galliwasp sitting on the rock, crawling on my hand, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Because Galliwasp run when you go after them. So it is here, and it breeds fast, and people will mix it up, and we don't know what's going on. What we are getting, so a number of people that were inspired after this, the repatriation of the Galliwasp, they have been posting pictures on iNaturalist of Galliwasp that they encounter. Jamaicans, all Galliwasp is a Galliwasp. So when you tell people that there are 10 species, a Galliwasp, Mr. One big one, Mr. One, no. So you have to break it down now to just let you know that they're different. So the smaller one is not a baby one, it's a different species. So, but the good thing, people are posting, and then we scientists can go on and verify. But we need more people. It takes a lot of work to go through the pictures. It takes a lot of work to go back and talk to the people and inspire. If you don't answer them, they won't be posting, and it's a waste of time. But it's a lot of work. And yeah, so we're still getting, see there, we get a lot of information, Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, Instagram. Now, some of the things that we're getting, when we brought it back, we had people come up with all kinds of things. The first one was when they said a 170-year-old Galliwasp has returned. They believe all of what we could have done while living Galliwasp, they couldn't leg up on me. So we had to go on the TV, we had to do social media. I said, one, the specimen is dead, right? And we're not planning on bringing it back to let go on you. And people laugh at it, but majority, a number of Jamaicans believe that. And then you had some other influencers that come up with some ridiculous stuff. So we who know how to go out and put information out, right? So sometimes you have to get a Galliwasp, put in your hand and say, it's on my hand, and it don't sting me, it don't reach water, and I don't die. But one thing that I did like, can press the video?
Look at this fat boy, Rooster.
Right, so we get like nurses, there's a lot of people now sending videos of the Galliwasp that they encounter, and we start now getting the distribution of some of the species. So, and this was a nurse who told me that she saw the Galliwasp, and now she took him out in a container and released it. So it is slowly happening, and some of the people said that they feel bad. So overall, as I wrap up in saying, the repatriation of the Galliwasp, as I mentioned, for me personally as a scientist, just go in and look at it, it gives us ideas on where to look for it. It could be still, I believe it could be here. If the giant Galliwasp could have been in the Hellshire so long and we have been searching, why we couldn't find that? And especially since it's nocturnal, the iguana was there. And especially since it's nocturnal, it's pretty shy, there's a strong chance that it's still here. The others that I mentioned to you are also hard to find. Thank you.
All right, so colleagues, one of the goals of the panel is to, very often in my discussions with colleagues here, I have to explain that it's not just that we brought back a lizard, it's the opportunities that the Galliwasp has opened up for us. So we have about 5 minutes for question and answer. I don't know if anyone has any questions from the audience or comments or reflections on repatriation.
I have a quick question, but it's not about the repatriation aspect. What is the difference between a skink and a Galliwasp?
What is the difference between a skink and a Galliwasp?
Okay, so they're in different, okay, so when we do classification, we classify on morphological features, how they look. So the scale, one is the scalation. There's a number of scales that we normally check either on the head, on the neck, and also on how it looks. So, and the behavior. So the behavior, how it looks. So right now, why I'm kind of, I just don't remember what's the number with the scalation and the skink. And there's also a size different. And from observation, some of the skinks are, so Jamaica have one species of skinks. When you go online, some of the skinks look like some of the Galliwasp that we have here.
So we won't know the difference unless we take a picture and see.
Yeah, but the chances are you will not, well, from what we have, the areas that our skink is right now is mostly Hellshire Hills. Okay. There were records of it like on some of the keys, but when we brought in mongoose and cats, because Jamaicans still have this thing when we have a thief in puss, as they call it, I don't want to carry it to JSPC, I go let it go in the bush. And when the cat goes there, a cat do what cats do. Hunt.
Well, even a well-fed cat hunt lizard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I have a question for Liz. If you could just say, Liz, in terms of bringing in the specimen into the collection, where you already have a collection of Galliwasp, right? But how did Celeste's return actually kind of require to look at the collection a little differently?
So, okay, so your question is,
More about if you were forced to rethink what you had in the collection. Because remember, initially it was, oh, we have the Celestius Ocidus abroad, and we saw others that were larger than Celeste. And then you came back and looked back in the collection based on a conversation that we had.
Yeah. Well, we first, when it came back, we were very excited. We called in our herpetologists. Damien and Damani came down and we unwrapped it and Sloan and compared it to what we have. So, as I said, the Ocidus was really a large group of, any large one that they found, they called it Ocidus, but it could have been a different Celestus. So just looking at it and the description, we're not entirely sure that this is the Ocidus, but it could be another large Celestus, Striatus, for example. So we need more more research into it, just to determine what it is. Before the specimen left, Mike and I did take DNA samples, and that DNA work is being done in Scotland. So we will have a bit more information about the specimen to come. So, but it was just amazing to see the immediate reaction of the students. They came down and we were all excited to see what it is, because we've been hearing about Jamaican Galliwasp, and it's been fostering a lot of discussion around the species. And I'm sure, as Damien said, there's a lot of, we have to really verify a lot of the species now that are there. So.
All right, so we have a follow-up question for Elizabeth from Zoom. The person loved your discussion on the history of the Natural History Museum of Jamaica and repatriation, and they want to know, what are some ways NHMJ intends to make their work more informative and inclusive for all ages when discussing the Galliwasp return?
Well, this is something, so through our education departments and CHM for all ages, we are developing educational materials and regarding the Galliwasp. So, for the young ones, we'll be telling the story of Celeste. This is something that we even discussed with our partners in Scotland too. Blogs and videos for the younger persons. So it's not just, the researchers who are very interested in lizards. Part of our mandate is to try and influence persons to conserve the species that are out in the wild, Galliwasps and all reptiles, because you may think in your heart of hearts that Jamaicans don't like lizards and they hate them, but the interest that has been surrounding this specimen is overwhelming. Everywhere I go, they're saying, there's Elizabeth coming with her lizard talk, people are caring about it. People do care about their environment. They may not say so in so many words, but I read between the lines, and I'm encouraged that eventually the situation will turn, and we will maybe not embrace, but at least not go out of our way to be harmful to these really harmless lizards. So that's some of the things, and we'll be using social media. We're doing that sort of thing to try and get.
Okay, so we're going to have one question from Prof. Young, and then two more from Zoom, and then we will wrap up. We can talk after. Prof?
First of all, congratulations. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. Question. I was very happy to hear that you're doing DNA studies. I'm not so happy to hear that DNA studies are being done in Scotland. Why aren't the DNA studies being done here?
Well, it's not that we're averse to doing the studies here. the specimen is now here, and students who are interested and researchers who are interested, the specimen is here for this precisely this sort of research. It's just that when we did leave Scotland, we did take DNA samples, so that research is ongoing now. And the specimen is here within the Natural History Museum. The university has made it available for
And how much
research.
DNA work is being done on the species that are extant here?
Thank you.
Well, so the first thing that I mentioned, we had problem in having residential herpetologists. And in the Department of Life Sciences, it's moving towards looking at projects like that. One of the main problems that we had, as I mentioned before, was that there was a number of the collections that we don't have that are for example, at Harvard University, are some in the European collection. Some of them already have some of these DNA stuff in their database. What we are trying to do now is the species that we have here, some even at IOJ, we are starting to find students, graduate students, to get interested and start the work here. We have Prof. Tennant and other people here now that we are looking at to get the work done. There was a big problem that we always end up on is funding. So as I said before, and I'll go again, one is finding. So when you decide to go out there that you're looking for a Galliwasp, it's not easy. So what we're trying to do now, come up with research projects, one, and that's through with the department, with NEPA and all of that, to get the information. I must say, Prof, we still have funding issues to do all of the analysis here.
Well, one of the advantages that you have now is that the thing is popular.
Yes, yes.
And so that's a one way that you can seek funding. But that brings me to the last part of my question, which is a broader perspective. Getting this thing back, I think also because of the widespread publicity and all that, has tremendous significance for the whole project of repatriation of things. And the last thing I want to have happen is that people say, you see them? We get it back to them and all they do is put it on a shelf somewhere and leave it. And we never hear anything more again. We have to research it. We have to find projects that they would not conceive of. And build our knowledge about this in a very public way so that they can see that when the thing comes back here, it's not just left, but it is used to build and explore and carry it to heights that they would never conceive of doing themselves. That's what I want to see happen. And that will redound to the entire project of repatriation of everything when they see that things that come back here don't just come back and life follow, but they come back and stimulate a whole knowledge proliferation. And that's what you have to make happen.
And Prof, just to finish that, just to bring everybody, personally, one of the things from a research standpoint that is always said that we in the Caribbean, or a third world country, are not at the capacity to store or specimen like this and carry out the research. And I would say sometime there is some truth to it, because we might bring back a specimen and just put it in a room, AC breakdown and all of that. I charge on us that we do what we can do in trying to find funding to support IOJ. And when I said funding, it takes money to care, exhibition costs money, storage, research, all of that. I would not want the next 10 years to come and you say, see, we were right. You guys can't manage it. But I know, and from the specimen came back, we are here having this discussion, which is our first people who didn't know anything about Galliwasp talking about it. And this is an opportunity, as you said, to inspire local research. And when I said local, you is a Caribbean university, so we can have Jamaicans and Caribbean colleagues come together and go with the research. There's so much to be done in regards to the Galliwasp. As I mentioned, we have so many species here. We don't know the threats. They have a good, some people have it that, like when they cut the tail, you know, with lizard, they grow. There's so much research potential, and we could be losing some of them when we do development. That's why our urge with this will inspire us to carry out more work.
All right, and the last question, I know there are other questions, but I asked just for us to talk a little bit after. Damien and others, and I suppose it extends to our colleagues in the audience. As a young professional in ecology, after studying and working abroad, I would like to know what are some ways to become a better herpetologist, and if there is a need for assistance from graduates in the field, coming into the field.
Well, I should state first that there is a need for herpetologists. And if I think if I count the number of herpetologists in Jamaica, I think I can't go more than 10. It might be less. If I check, we have Prof. Wilson right there, who is a herpetologist, fully trained. We had Dr. Vogel, Peter Vogel, who passed. And I would say I'm a dabbling naturalist. I'm a birder, but I went over my PhD, look at aspects of the iguana that I'm currently doing. We have few. One of the problems most time, students who finish, they say that they don't know the avenue to continue research, and it's something that we have to work on. I mean, some of my colleagues have to find ways to, you know, to be more welcoming and let students come out. I know sometimes we might complain that it slows us down, but we're getting older. I remember one time I was running up behind Prof. Wilson, might have been a headache, but now I'm here, and Dr. Vogel did us with slow and that. So yes, there's room. There's room to go to the IOG and help with several other collections there. In terms of we have lizards, we have a lot of specimens in the IOJ that they need help, and they will also show you. So what I would tell to that student, I don't know if you guys have a program for assist, but we have different groups that would facilitate it through the Department of Life Sciences, through groups like the Natural History Society, through the Hope Zoo, through some of the work that they are doing in the Iguana Project, where they are looking for volunteers at time to help. Through you just being home and sharing maybe on social media that you find something special. So what I'm saying, there's so many avenues, and with what we have now, like we're easy to reach out to. I think I'm a friendly person, and with sending emails or contact with Elizabeth can help out that. So I would tell that person we need help. We need more visiting herpetologists or other scientists to. That's where collaboration. We all can't do it. We don't have all the money to fund all the research, but when all of us come together, we'll make it happen.
Okay, colleagues, it has been a very eventful and great morning into afternoon. So I would like to wrap up by giving the vote of thanks. This has been a journey dating as far back as 2023 with colleagues at the University of Glasgow, the Ontarian, more specifically Mike Rutherford. So I'm very grateful that Mike reached out to me. I'm also grateful that my career started at the Institute of Jamaica, so I was fully aware that we didn't have a specimen in the national collection, and that I was able to meet with, and we all well, our field is very small, so we all maintain fairly good relationships. And so the thanks starts from as far back as there. The Ontarian for being amazing hosts and assisting us in documenting and actually opening other natural history collections to us so that we could see what we didn't have and what they had in their collections rooms. The Glasgow Caribbean Centre for Development Research, which funded the project, the Office of Global Affairs that funded Desirena, colleagues at the IOJ as we work towards completing this MOU with the support from the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Office of the University Council that would have done a lot of the work to draft, as well as the legal counsel at the ministry. I want to extend gratitude to all my colleagues here from the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, Mrs. Creed Nelson, for facilitating this process. It took quite a bit of us to find a date that we could all agree on. The university registrar, we're in the middle of university meetings, so he was kind enough to come at least to facilitate the signing. I want to thank PBCJ, who were interested and worked with me over the last 24 hours to figure out how we were going to do this. My colleagues in University CIO who have taken time out of their work day to provide me with support. Other colleagues at the University of the West Indies. Dr. Hall coming to represent Prof. Weber, who's also in the middle of university campus meetings. And I want to thank you all for being here today. Those who have attended on Zoom, Mr. Kadim, what's your last name again? Thank you for saving me in the last 12 hours, because we would not have been able to collaborate with PBCJ if he didn't volunteer his time after hours to set up an early this morning. I also want to thank the persons who are on the Zoom, those who have joined us on Facebook. We've gone on a little longer than at home. Our panelists who at the last minute I had to ask for PowerPoints. Thank you for loving me enough to do this. I'm extremely grateful and just very happy that you are all here to share with us in this momentous occasion. Please feel free to take pictures next to Celeste and share with family members. Colleagues have already started sharing with their family members, and children want to come and see it. So thank you all very much for coming, and I wish you a great rest of the day.